This podcast contains explicit content.
Dissecting the news, one tangent at a time. This is Hardly Focused.
Hello, everybody! Welcome to Hardly Focused. It's the 25th of July. It is the 508th episode with Jack Gill and Nate Fillers. It is just the two of us today.
You and I.
And Nate Fillers joins the show for the first time in several weeks.
Yeah.
How are you, Nate?
I'm all right. How are you?
Remember that?
A lot of things.
Remember that really awful song from like the 90s or the 80s? It was like, I've seen better days.
I've seen better days. I like my orange juice Minute Maid. I don't really know the lyrics.
God, just a bad song. I hate that song, but
I've heard better songs.
I have too, but I think it accurately just describes my mindset as of late, and I think the weather has something to do with this.
Oh, you mean the fact that this whole month we haven't had a single sunny day?
It's been just bizarre, man. Where we are in New England, the weather's just been rainy almost every day. It hasn't been seasonable. It's either been really hot and humid or it's been pouring rain. And yesterday, Saturday the 24th, happy birthday to a few of my friends. It was like everybody's birthday yesterday on the 24th.
Oh, yeah.
So you know who you are if you fell out of your mother's ass on this day several years ago.
Happy birthday.
The weather was nice enough. It was like sunny and 75 degrees. I was able to go outside and mow the lawn for the first time in like a month. It was a jungle.
Did you bring a Pokemon to make sure that you're safe? Like, because tall grass. It's not safe to go in the tall grass without a Pokemon.
You are correct. And there's just a family of snakes in my yard that has just always been here since I moved in. And my rule of thumb is if you're a snake and you see the lawnmower, you better run, or whatever it is that snakes do, because I don't believe they have legs.
Yeah, is it running? Is it whatever that is?
The danger noodles.
Yes.
Like the finest Velvet Revolver song, they slither away.
Oh, yeah, that's true. The only good one.
So, I don't know, Velvet Revolver had a couple good songs, man.
The only good one.
Oh, no. Oh, no. No, Velvet Revolver had a few good songs of their two albums.
I'm trying to think. There was a few that sounded just like they could be AC/DC songs. Or not AC/DC, sorry. Wow. Well, let's start the episode over.
Okay, so for Velvet Revolver, there was Fall to Pieces, Slither, She Builds Quick Machines, Get Out the Door, and I swear there was one more that I'm blanking on right now from their first album.
Fall to Pieces is the one that if you listen to it, I swear if you just replace the singer, it's a Guns N' Roses song. It sounds exactly like a Guns N' Roses song.
Oh, it does. Yeah, the music was all formulaic.
Yeah, that's true.
It was incredibly formulaic. I mean, it didn't help that three of the members in the band were former Guns N' Roses, but still, like Slash is a phenomenal guitarist.
Oh, yeah.
But everything that Slash does, you're gonna know it's Slash.
Mm-hmm.
You will know absolutely from the outset that it's Slash, and Velvet Revolver was no exception in that it was interchangeable with not just Guns N' Roses, but most of the other stuff that he has done.
Yeah.
But Velvet Revolver was not only in my opinion, and I know this is a very polarizing opinion, I thought they were a great band. and a great supergroup. And they came about at a time when the music landscape was just inundated with supergroups. Everybody started supergroups around that time. You had Velvet Revolver, you had Army of Anyone. Do you remember them?
I do not.
It was the brothers from Stone Temple Pilots, Richard Patrick from Filter on vocals, and the guy who's currently playing drums in Korn, who's Ray Luzier.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's an interesting bunch.
Yeah, there was just, and then you had Audio Slave. That was another one. Yeah.
That's true. That was a year, huh?
Yeah, it was the mid-aughts were a time for music, especially for, music where actual instruments are utilized.
Yeah.
Compared to other, musical acts where it's just all electronic gobbledygook.
Yep.
I was talking to my neighbor who reminds me of Hank Hill. Talking to him yesterday because he's a big classic rock guy and he loves Cheap Trick. And I too am a fan of Cheap Trick. And I jest about this, but it's one of those jokes that becomes serious. That whenever you see any music festival announced, and it doesn't matter who's on the bill, unless it's like an EDM festival. But if it's any other, if it's like a rock music festival or like a current hits festival, top 40, whatever you want to call it, Cheap Trick is always on the bill. And it doesn't, it seriously doesn't matter what the intended audience is going to be, what the age range is going to be. Who's on the bill? It literally does not matter.
Yeah, they're like the Nicolas Cage of rock and roll music.
And Cheap Trick always shows up on the bill, and everyone there knows who Cheap Trick is, regardless of age, regardless of who they are there to see. Everybody knows Cheap Trick. Case in point, the iHeart Radio Festival that's happening this year, hopefully in person. It will include performances by Billie Eilish, Dua Lipa, J. Cole, Khalid, Lil Baby, Maroon 5, Nelly, Sam Hunt, Cheap Trick.
One of these things is not like the other.
I swear to God, dude, Cheap Trick is playing with all of them.
That's great.
Yeah, so it's another one of those things where I'm like, you think I'm kidding? I'm not kidding when I say that. Cheap Trick always shows up.
That's great.
And they are all in their 70s now too.
Good for them.
Well, they're in their 70s, and then their kids are also playing in a band now too. Rick Nielsen's son plays drums. Tom Peterson's been out of commission due to surgery, so Xander's kid has been playing bass, filling in for him. So yeah, it's been it's going to be, I guarantee you, in 10 years, Cheap Trick will continue to exist, but it will be like the offspring of all of the band members.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. So
I was just trying to think, their grandkids are probably the same age as the bands that they're opening for.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Not to mention they are the same age, if not older, than the members of Cheap Trick were when they first found stardom in the late 70s.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird how that plays out. I was talking to Hank Hill yesterday about the Gin Blossoms, because on his shuffle, whatever it was he was using to listen to music, the opening track to New Miserable Experience came on, and I fucking love that album. I'll listen to it front to back. Fuck, dude, this tattoo on my arm that I'm doing a really bad job of showing off is a Gin Blossoms tattoo from that album. And we were talking about that, and it dawned on both of us that we were talking about an album that came out almost 30 years ago.
Holy shit.
Came out in 1992, man.
Oh, fuck, dude.
Yeah.
They wrote so many, really, really catchy songs. I feel like they're one of the most underrated bands, in my opinion. Because I think most people don't really know who they are.
it's
but
they do. Yeah, it's one of those things where like if you don't know who Gin Blossoms are, the second like Hey Jealousy comes on, you're like, oh, I know who this band is.
Yeah,
I've heard this before, be it in the supermarket or the shopping mall, because that song plays everywhere 30 years later. But that first album too is just a masterpiece. The songs were largely written by their guitarist Doug Hopkins, who passed away shortly after the album was released. He was a severe alcoholic and was his demise was he was forced out of the band due to his alcoholism. But goddamn, was he just a good songwriter, and you could hear that in his lyrics. When a drunk who doesn't want to be a drunk writes lyrics about being a drunk, man, that shit hits hard.
Yep.
So, and they're another band that, they're still around. They still tour. I saw them play that album front to back a couple of years ago at Mohegan Sun. They actually, did a couple tributes to Doug Hopkins. It's just interesting to see, like, and just think about, like, this is classic rock now.
Yeah, it's really weird to think about, isn't it?
I don't like that. I don't like to think that way.
I don't like to think that way either, but I would like to hope that it's going to come again. Like it's going to resurge some, but I don't know. I don't think it will.
Just think about it, man. We were talking about classic rock back in, the 90s, and we were classifying stuff that came out in the 60s, like Beatles at the time was classic rock. Zeppelin was classic rock. Let's look back to 2001. The Green Album by Weezer. Nickelback. Yes, I mentioned Nickelback, but that they took off in 2001. Hey,
that How You Remind Me is still somewhat of a decent song.
Stained, System of a Down. There's just so many things to think about that came out 20 years ago that now
Family Values tour.
Yeah. Blink 182.
They were 2000?
Yeah. I mean, they took off in the late 90s and really came to prominence and around 2001. Even shit, dude. Shade. Well, even like the boy bands of the 90s, right? Like,
yeah.
And Foo Fighters also fully embracing their classic rock persona now.
Yeah.
What a time, dude.
Well, Slim Shady's definitely up there in the classic rock.
Well, the weather, hopefully it holds up, because in less than a week, I'm going to my first concert since the pandemic, died down a little bit, but it's an outdoor concert. So let's hope the weather holds up, man, because I really don't want to have to skip this because of the weather.
I think it will get out of its system, hopefully.
Climate
How
change.
Much more can it rain?
Yeah. Go ask Germany that. Go ask the Netherlands that.
True.
That's something that we may or may not get to on this episode. Something that happened out in Germany when a reporter was doing an on-site report about the floods that are happening out there. If you remember back during Katrina, there was, I think it was Katrina, there was that now infamous shot of the reporter who was like standing, he was like in a boat, right? Or like in a canoe or something doing his report, and then like claiming like, oh, the floods here are so bad. We're in feet of water. And then behind him, like two jabronis just walk by in the shot. It's like the water's up to their ankles. So Germany had their version of that last week. Kanye West has a new album coming out, and if you were present at one of the listening parties for that new album, then you may have an opportunity to score, if you have the money for it, atmosphere that was collected during that event, because there are people out there who have money and would rather spend it on things like that. Boy, would that just be the life.
Like going into space.
Yeah, we can talk about that.
That was just,
Well, speaking of that too, there's an odd amount of news from the last couple of weeks about horse coitus, bestiality, if you will. So that's also a thing. Do we just have so much to go over during this episode of Hardly Focused? Nate, I'm happy you're here, man. It's been a minute.
I'm glad to see you. It's been a while, and I've been wanting to do the show for a while, but it's just hasn't lined up.
It's been a time, and even with my, the combination of just this ever-present gloomy weather that we have and my mental health curiosities, is it just tough to find the motivation to want to sit down here and do the thing. But hey, man, once we do it, I'm happy. I'm in my spot.
Me too.
So
I like shooting the shit.
And I love taking shits.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
Well, with that, we will kick things off, and let's see where this one takes us. Stick around.
This is Hardly Focused.
Don't recite Pulp Fiction while your wife's in labor. While it's on TV. With the nurse that's helping her give birth.
Oh, Mike, why do you say this? Why would you know this?
The nurse and I were riffing. It was great. And it's like, hey, I'm having a kid here. Like, whatever.
Hear more at hardlyfocused.com.
Hardly Focused is available to enjoy on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. You hear me say that at the beginning of every podcast. Well, we made it super easy for you to follow the show. Find the best option for you at hardlyfocused.com/subscribe. This podcast contains explicit content.
You are listening to Hardly Focused.
Let's begin the show by starting it.
Oh, here we go, everybody, and welcome to Hardly Focused on the 25th of July, the 508th episode of our fine program with Jack Gill and Nate Fillers. Just the two of us today on the old podcast.
You and I.
This band, by the way, Quicksand, they're dropping new music.
Oh, really?
They've released a few new songs over the last couple of months. They have a new album coming out. They're kicking off a tour later this year. They're playing at the Royale, I think, in Boston.
Thank you, pandemic.
It's
for
the first
giving us all this new music.
It's the first date of that tour too. So hopefully it sticks. God, I hope it sticks. I love that band. I want to see them. If you don't know, influential post-hardcore band from the 90s, and their bassist Sergio Vega currently plays with Deftones.
True.
Took over for the late great Chi Ching.
Yep.
Nate, you went to a show recently, right? Your first post-pandemic outing?
I did. It was a job. I actually worked.
Wow.
Did things like
Nice.
a grown-up.
Nice.
Yeah, crazy dude. It's like I had forgotten many things about shows.
Like?
How many people are there?
Yeah, especially if because I know you're very cautious about being out in public with, the pandemic, because the pandemic obviously is not gone.
Nope.
If anything, it's starting to, we're like on the edge of it, but we're still not out of it. So it's still like we're just kind of going with the current right now on the edge. So I know you have your concerns about being in a crowd of people.
Yeah.
But you're vaccinated, right? Like,
yeah, it's fine.
yeah. So
Until the news, of course, is making me feel less fine, but I think that's their job, is to make people feel less fine.
You're not wrong. There's a lot of sensationalism out there that we could do without. And also, too, I mean, the thing that I've seen, like you sent all of us yesterday, Slate.com article about the breakthrough, quote unquote, breakthrough cases and what happens if you are vaccinated. And that article, and pretty much every other article that I have read when they discuss what this Delta variant is doing and just like that, how cases are going up everywhere, is that they all say the same thing. If you're vaccinated, you are most likely fine. You can still contract it. There's still a percentage, a small chance that you could end up hospitalized or die, but the vaccines, for the people who are still catching it despite being vaccinated, the vaccines are doing exactly what they're supposed to do: reduce symptoms and reduce risk of transmission. And then all the articles also point out all the same exact thing. Across all articles, they also point out the unvaccinated are the ones who are filling up the hospitals yet again and causing the issues. So if you're vaccinated, you might get sick, but you'll get over it. You should. There's a very good chance you'll get over it and you'll be fine, and that you won't pose a huge risk to others. But it's still a threat that looms over us. It's just those who refuse vaccinations are the ones that need to worry about it. To which I say,
those cool people. To
which I say, natural selection. You had your chance. You have the opportunity. There's literally nothing stopping you from doing this. So
yep. Do you hear all the stories about the people who are like on their deathbeds and they're asking for the vaccine then? And the doctors are just like, well, sorry, it's kind of a little late.
I will laugh at that. I will laugh at those people because you had your chance. You had your opportunity. When you're lying in bed, struggling to breathe, about to be put on a ventilator or literally on death's door, and you ask for the vaccine, it's not something that's suddenly going to make you better and allow you to jump out of bed. And this is definitely like one of those acts of desperation that people are making when they realize that they are boned.
Yeah.
Like, no, you had your opportunity. You had your chance. You didn't take it. You listened to the conspiracy theories, or you decided you were too good for it. Well, look what happened. It's not some sort of miracle cure that's going to allow you to recover instantly. Like it's not a video game where you pick up a health pack and all of a sudden you're fine. It doesn't work.
Yeah. Did you hear about that leader of like the anti-vax group that got COVID and died?
Yes.
She was like saying that it was just a hoax and everything like that, and spreading all sorts of misinformation about it. And
yeah. And that's another one where it sounds bad, but I laugh at that one because there's a subreddit I follow called Leopards Ate My Face, and that is quite literally a leopards ate my face moment. Again, you had it. You had the opportunity. It is of no cost to you. Literally all you need to do is get it, endure the upwards of 24 hours of side effects, and you'll be fine. Now, I understand immunocompromised people. There are people out there who can't get the vaccine because it will have no effect on. I understand that. I just threw my pen.
shit.
I understand that. And those are the people I feel for. Those are the ones that I feel for when they get sick and they end up in the hospital. But those people also, those are the ones that I believe want to take it and wish they could take it. It's the ones I don't have sympathy for are the ones who say, I'm not taking this because Tucker Carlson says it's going to give me microchips or it's going to give me autism.
I don't need it. My immune system is good enough.
Yeah, those are the people that I have no sympathy for. Those are the people I laugh at when the inevitable finally bites them in the ass.
Yeah.
While I sit back, like I bit the bullet. I got my vaccine. I was going to wait until it became readily available. I wanted others who needed it more than I to go out and get it. But I got it. I'm happy I got it. I'm going to be honest with you. I think I've had a cold for the last week. My throat has just been like scratchy, and I've had a cough, but it's not like, because again, I had COVID. It's not that. It feels like a cold. It doesn't feel like COVID, but it's now going to be one of those things where it's anytime I get the sniffles like this, and I'm going to guess that I caught this just because I've been back out in the open, not wearing a mask, being around people again, which I was getting sick before COVID because this is exactly what would happen back then. Yeah. But it's going to be in the back of my mind now, even though, like, hey, I'm vaccinated and I had COVID. So the chances of me getting this double whammy are very low, but it's still something I need to be cognizant of.
And that's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to keep like the hospitalizations down. It's supposed to keep, because can you imagine what they went through for last year? It's just like, holy crap. Like every single day is Black Friday for them.
And they're starting to go through it again, which sucks.
Yeah.
Which really sucks that they're starting to have to do this again and have to live through this nightmare again, but they're also the ones who are out here saying it's the people that they are admitting and treating are all unvaccinated and largely anti-vaxxers or just against the idea of getting the COVID vaccine for one reason or another. So that's what they have to deal with right now. They're also the ones who are very openly saying it's the the people who are vaccinated are for all intents and purposes fine.
And fuck you, Fox.
Well, I mean, we're always going to have to live with this. We just live in the disinformation age now.
Well, what gets me is that they spread all this shit, but they're all vaccinated themselves.
Right?
Like, fuck you.
Did you see a video that went viral recently of this guy in Montana who met Tucker Carlson? Like, he encountered Tucker Carlson somewhere and like got in Tucker Carlson's face, but he was like, at least like, I don't know if like polite and civil is like the right terms to use here, because he was telling Tucker Carlson to his face, you are a terrible person. Like, you're the scum of the earth.
Well, it's not terrible if it's true.
Yeah. I mean, the guy was like speaking the truth, and Tucker Carlson is just being a weasel and trying not to laugh. God, that is someone I hope just gets hit by a train.
Just the amount of misinformation that they spread on that network is just
right.
It's gross.
And what sucks is that like bad things always happen to good people. They don't happen to bad people.
Yeah.
So like I say that I wish Tucker Carlson would get hit by a train, and knowing my luck, Tucker Carlson's going to get the next golden ticket from Jeff Bezos to go into space.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, your show.
Yes.
How many people were masked? Because I'm going to a concert, my first post-pandemic concert very soon. How many people were masked where you were?
Bagel.
Yourself included?
Myself included, yes.
Okay.
I was working. I just felt like, see, the way that I felt is that I've gotten to the point where I'm just like, I'm probably going to get it. Because it's just going to keep going. There's going to be other variants. It's just going to keep going. So I was vaccinated, so that's fine.
Right.
I wasn't comfortable with it, but I wasn't masked. I don't feel great about it in retrospect, but I had to because it was so goddamn hot. And like,
oh yeah.
When you're working and you're running and you're holding like a camera and you're doing all sorts of sort of thing, like, yeah.
Yeah,
so,
I hear that.
But then again, I still believe that masks protect others, not really. I feel like no one else was masked.
Right. Yeah.
So it wasn't going to do anything anyway.
I am like my whole thing was when Massachusetts reopened at the end of May. I was going to go like a few more weeks wearing a mask, even though like I didn't have to. I was going to keep doing it. It was a personal choice. And then I stopped. And now we're hearing about, the Delta variant and these breakthrough cases and how LA County, California, or pretty much now almost all California now at this point, starting to reimpose mask mandates. There's advisories everywhere. I'm optimistic that we're not going to have to go back into lockdown, but like having to wear masks all the time is probably going to become commonplace. And for me, it just sort of felt like, okay, it's been nice to, kind of take a vacation from wearing a mask, but I'm going to have to start wearing it again. And I need to get better about wearing it again. And I've been like, maybe like half the time I go out, I'll wear one. But, well, you went to your first show, your first post-pandemic show. You worked at it. What were you doing there? Before I transition, what were you doing there?
I was hired to do some videography work for an artist in Boston.
Okay.
Her name's Stephanie James. She's really nice. She's really talented. But she wanted me to film, like me and my cousin to film her set. She had 3 of them. And we can get into it later if you want, but basically I'm starting my own like videography / photography business on the side.
Nice.
Because fuck YouTube. But anyway, yeah. So we reached out to them and they were happy to let us give it a go.
Nice.
And yeah, and it was very, very, very interesting because it was very intense. Like, so there was like this VIP area and like, you know, people who are VIP are supposed to go there, but like there were girls just like coming in constantly and like trying to sit next to me and chat with me, and I'm just like, who are you? What why are you here? Like,
you listen to podcasts?
Yeah. And like they were so drunk and I was just like, I forgot how to deal with these kind of people. I don't drink. So,
yeah, you're right.
It's very difficult for me to manage drunk people because it's just like I feel like you need to have some sort of drunkenness to deal with that. Otherwise it's just like kind of awkward and you're like, this is kind of weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just, yeah, there were people everywhere and more people showed up than I expected.
Well, I'm glad you got to do this. I'm glad you had fun. Sounds like you had fun anyway.
I did. It was definitely an experience. The only part I didn't like was when I was going to the bar to get a drink, some woman spilled her drink all over me. And then I was like, I was a gentleman. I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. What are you drinking? Like, I was gonna get her a new one because like I fucked up, you know? And she's like, no, please don't. I'm good. Like it was an accident. Like it's not your fault. I don't even know if I'm the reason why it got spilled.
That was nice of you, Nate. I wish there were more people in the world like you.
Here's the thing though. I was like, okay, cool. And then I went towards the bar. Her friends followed me and was like, where are you going? You're getting her a drink right now. I was like, she didn't want a drink. She's like, you're getting her a drink. And now all of a sudden it felt like there was this like friction, like where I was like, I'm trying to be a good person, but it feels like I'm being taken advantage of. So it's just...
That's exactly when you say, no, she said no, and I respect her decision. She said no.
I said that, but they continued to follow me to the bar. And I was just like, fine, fuck it.
I don't have money anyway.
Yeah, I should have said that, but I was headed to the bar and I needed a drink really bad. So
I've learned to just ignore people because I was, you know, there was a long time where and I think it was because of my upbringing where I felt like anytime someone addressed me that I had to respond and I had to acknowledge them. And then I learned that that's not normal and I don't need to do that. When people start doing that stuff, I literally ignore them.
They followed me. It was really hard.
And so you just circle around and then go back later. Was there another bar there that you could have gone to?
No, there was only one. The problem is this place was packed.
Yeah.
And you can't move around. It's not just like, you know, it's like, you know, figure out how to get through everybody. And it's just like wall to wall of people. So there's no real like escaping. There's no like, I got away from her or anything. Like they were always there.
Yeah.
So I said, you know what? The easiest thing to do would just be like, fine. Here's your drink.
Guess you missed those days, huh?
Yep.
Well, I went to my first post-pandemic. Well, I went to a radio station event a few weeks ago, which kind of bookended the pandemic because it was former AAF people, which was really cool. I think I talked about that last week. But this past week on Thursday, I drove down to New York City. I'll preface this by saying a very close friend of mine, Nicole, not Nicole from our past life, Talk Radio Meltdown, but a friend of mine named Nicole, who is a fellow radio geek, musician, Foo Fighters fan. Her and I met on MySpace in 2005.
Oh, you have one of those too? That's awesome.
And 16 years later, we finally met in person.
That's so cool.
Got dinner, went bar hopping. Oh, it just felt like natural. Like it felt like we've just been friends like online and we talk on FaceTime and meeting in person. And it was just like, you know, there was no weirdness to it. There was no awkwardness. It just kind of like, we just kind of picked up and went with it. And then literally like an hour into it, we just stopped and like, wait a minute. This is really the first time we've ever met.
That's awesome.
So, but before that, I went to a taping of The Late Show with Stephen Colbert.
I got to hear all about this.
And if you ever go to New York City, seriously, do try to go to one of these tapings, either Fallon or Colbert, because they're free to go to. I mean, you gotta get secure tickets ahead of time, but they're free to go to, and you get a really good show out of it. And for me, it was really like my first formal event, being around other people, being part of a studio audience, and you needed to bring your vaccination card to get in. So if you don't have that, you will literally get turned away at the door.
Nice.
So I got a really good seat too, man. I was on like the end of a row, but I was otherwise like two or three rows away from the stage.
Nice.
On what would be Colbert's stage right. So I'm facing the left side of the stage. And yeah, great episode. I think, okay. Lay back up. Wednesday's episode was a great episode because it was Emily Blunt and Bob Costas. And the episode I was present for was a comedian named Hannah Einbinder, who's on a show called Hacks. And she actually holds the distinction of being the last guest that Colbert had before the pandemic forced, like a guest in front of an audience before the pandemic forced everybody into lockdown, forced him and all the other late night hosts to go remote and go from home.
Mm-hmm.
So, because Colbert did like one last episode, not without an audience. It was in studio without an audience. I think Sanjay Gupta was there, but otherwise, Hannah Einbinder was the last like performer. So she was there. She did an interview. I kind of feel like, I don't know, this episode was kind of weird. It felt a little phoned in. I don't know if they're just having trouble getting guests because they want them to like be in studio. And obviously people are still, playing it safe because of the pandemic.
It out, yeah.
It just seemed a little phoned in, and Colbert, I don't know, he even seemed a little like he didn't want to be there. I don't know. It just felt weird. I don't know if it was just because I was actually there in person, because I went back and watched the episode, and I was in it for all of like 2 seconds when they did a pan over the audience. But I was there. I can point myself out. I can take a screen cap and be like, I'm right there. There's me.
I'm famous.
And I've lucked out too, because when I went to Fallon 7 years ago, I also sat in the front row. So that was, you just got to show up early enough to get the best seat. But watching it on TV, though, like it seemed like a normal episode. So I don't know if it was just because it just felt different because I was in person. But it's such an experience, and it's so different when you are in person. And Colbert, even if it did seem like he was phoning it in, he was still like, he actually, Fallon didn't do this when I went to the Tonight Show. Jimmy Fallon did not come out beforehand and do a Q&A with people and like address the crowd at all. Colbert actually like came out before taping and did a Q&A and talked to us and like just hung out with us before it was time to start taping.
That's cool.
So, there was a anesthesiologist in the crowd who wanted, I guess it's the thing Letterman used to do. This anesthesiologist during the Q&A, Stephen called on him and he said like, hey, I'm starting this new gig after leaving my previous one of 14 years. I want to announce it to my friends and family. Like, can you do that for me? And Colbert said he would and fit it into a joke. And it was such like, the joke itself was kind of a misfire, but the guy got his acknowledgement, which I thought was really nice. Awesome. And I was afraid that like when they were doing the taping, I'm like, because they cut stuff all the time. And I thought they were going to cut it and they didn't cut it.
That's cool.
So they only cut one. They only cut one thing. The only thing they cut was Colbert just flubbing a joke during the monologue. That was it. So otherwise, it's like 100%. Like what you see at the taping is what goes out over the air. But otherwise, yeah, it was fun. I really want to do it again. I think there's actually I think you actually have to wait a period of time before you can go back and do it. But I would absolutely make the trek to go do it again.
Nice. What part did he mess up? Because I didn't see a point where they could like.
It was a seamless edit.
Yeah.
When I watched back,
I was trying to find it.
One of the jokes he told was about how anti-vaxxers on social media groups are now using code words when they're talking about the vaccines and COVID, but they're using like terms like pizza. And when they talk about Moderna, one of the vaccine brands, they call it Moana, like the movie. And he was trying to tell a joke about that. I think the joke he told it too early, and he like burst out laughing halfway through it. And so like he looked at his producer and like, did the cut signals, and it was just straight up like, I fucked that up. We got to do it again. So, and then he told the whole joke over, and where the cut was made, I would have to point out to you where, the transition was, because he got it on the second try, and it was, those guys can really seamlessly edit that stuff when it goes to air. But otherwise, 100% of everything else was exactly as I saw it as it was filmed. So
awesome. I tried to look for it when you sent me the clip. I was like, I don't see a part where they could have edited it. Like maybe he had to do the whole thing over again.
Yeah, he did. I mean, he didn't have to do the entire monologue over again, but he did the whole joke over again, which is like, so you have to sit through that. But otherwise,
and everybody was like, we already heard this.
Yeah. And the warm up, they have like a warm up comedian, and it's Paul Mercurio, who I know best for getting Opie and Anthony fired in 2002 for the Sex for Sam stunt that was national news.
So what happened there? How did he get them fired?
The whole premise of they were doing this event called Sex for Sam, and it was sponsored by Sam Adams. And it was the third one that they were able to. It was the third one, so like they were able to do this several times in the past, and they would send couples out across Manhattan with a celebrity spotter, and they'd have simulated sex in like a public place. And when they were doing this one, this couple went into St. Patrick's Cathedral, and a security guard caught them, and the cops were called, and Paul Mercurio was just talking back to everybody, and then got everybody arrested. And what was at the time Infinity Broadcasting panic, because like the Catholic League was like threatening to sue them, and the FCC was like, hey, we're going to pull your license, and there's a bunch of fines. So ultimately they Opie and Anthony got fired, but it was big national news, and they for a long time considered Paul Mercurio dead to them, but I guess he's at least been on good terms with Anthony Cumia since then. So, but yeah, now he's, the warm-up comedian for Stephen Colbert, which I guess is a good gig if you can get it.
True.
For a comedian. So
I thought about it.
all I have to do is just go out, amp up the crowd, talk to people. I will say something that was really cool was, because he was like calling out a few people that he saw in the crowd and would bring them on stage and ask them questions, and he pulled up a group of individuals. It was two women and a man who didn't look like this at all based on their appearances, based on what they were wearing. But the three of them were nurses at a hospice facility, and when they announced that, they got a standing ovation, rightly so. And I'm sure that just made their lives.
Yeah.
So I actually I found myself standing next to them at the end of the taping when we were dispersed outside, and I told them like, hey, you guys were great up there, that was awesome. And they still seemed like they were on top of the world, even though like that wasn't something that was gonna make it to air. It was just sort of the novelty of being pulled on stage and getting that standing ovation from the crowd.
Yeah.
So, but the most important thing though, everyone in the crowd was vaccinated. Like you literally needed to have that proof. If you didn't have it, you would not get in. So it'll be interesting to see if there's any sort of like super spreader event might be too extreme of a term, but like if there's actually like you can do contact tracing and go back to like, oh, I went to a Colbert taping and I got COVID. Like hopefully that doesn't happen, but
yeah,
because there's a lot of places I would assume that what you didn't require vaccinations.
I'm gonna guess so. I'm gonna guess that I was in a room with at least one.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that don't require vaccinations, and then there's other things where, and there's like pushes. Different musicians are like pushing, like, hey, like we'll only do this if like we can confirm everyone's vaccinated. Foo Fighters, their show that they did in New York, you needed to have a proof of vaccination to get in.
Yeah, I wish they did that. I mean, they could have. I don't know. Like, I just got in. I just like walked into the place and set up my equipment and stuff like that. Nobody questioned me or anything. I'm like, I'm the videographer. I'm here to work.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, cool. But like, we got there a couple hours early, and then around like 7 o'clock is when people started to come in. So they might have been checked. They might have not been able to get in without. I have no idea. I would doubt it, but it's possible.
Yeah.
But still, I imagine that there were people there that were sick, and I wasn't around them for the required amount of time, but
right.
I know. I think it's just anxiety inducing. I think just knowing like, oh, okay, well, I did let my guard down because I was more focused on paying for my apartment than
right. Yeah. Well, it all goes back to the effectiveness of the vaccines. Like, okay, cool. If you got vaccinated, then your chances of, I mean, you're going to get sick, you can contract it, but chances of showing symptoms, very low. Chances of spreading it to people, also very low. So. And
this is what I fault the news for. The news specifically never says that part. They always say like, oh, there is, what was it? What's it? Some sort of sport team or something where
sport ball.
Most of the players got COVID or something.
Oh, the Yankees, because they had to delay. Yeah. They had to delay a game a couple weeks ago because of that.
Yeah, so baseball, and they never once said anything about the symptoms, like whether they were asymptomatic, whether they were mild, whether they were severe. They just treated it like they had COVID, worst case scenario.
Yeah,
like they have COVID even though they all were vaccinated, so you can get COVID if you're vaccinated. And like, not saying most people are asymptomatic, which is the responsible thing to say, but they're saying now with this Delta variant is that most people aren't asymptomatic with it. You do get more of a mild version of COVID.
Yeah.
But they're not, it's a numbers game, man. It's not like, this isn't like the magic star from Mario that gives you, or the
the
star
invincibility
from Sonic.
Yeah, the invincibility. You don't have a delightful tune that plays under you while after you get your vaccine. That's going back to what we were talking about, the people begging for vaccines when they're on their deathbeds. Like, no, it doesn't work like that. Let's do this. Hold that thought about the about vaccines. We'll come back. We'll talk more about that as well as whatever. So stick around.
You are listening to Hardly Focused. What are you buying?
Check out the Hardly Focused web store for things you can wear and things you can stick on stop signs.
What are you selling?
We carry shirts, face masks, and stickers, all bearing the logo of our fine program. Get your Hardly Focused gear today at hardlyfocused.com/store.
Thank you.
This podcast contains explicit content.
You are listening to Hardly Focused.
I could say something pretty inappropriate right now.
We are Hardly Focused. Thank you for checking us out today. You can get us at hardlyfocused.com. You can get us on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Just search for Hardly Focused. I do want to talk about YouTube at some point before we wrap up this episode. Because the two of us have some concerns about YouTube that do affect the livelihood of this podcast. So we were talking about vaccines, vaccination effectiveness. If you did not listen to the previous segment of this episode of Hardly Focused, because remember, we like to let people pick and choose what they want to hear. So not only do we post the full episodes of each podcast at hardlyfocused.com, but we also split them up so you can either listen to the first segment or the second segment of every episode. So if you didn't hear the first segment, we talked about vaccine effectiveness. We talked about what happens if you do get the vaccine, the COVID vaccine. Are you protected? Are you at a high risk of being able to spread COVID should you get it? Because I went to a taping of The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, where you actually had to show proof of vaccination to get in. Nate went to a concert, or worked at a concert as a videographer. His first event since the pandemic lessened. So we were talking about that, and I want to bring this up because this is kind of related. It's part of a segment that we do on this podcast called "How Fucking Dumb Are You?"
Hardly Focused
presents.
Do you finger your own asshole just to smell your own shit? Like, I don't get it. How fucking dumb are you?
Kanye West, Yeezus, Yee, etc. A man who is very seriously mentally ill, but continues to release music. Oh, I should clarify that. Former presidential candidate Kanye West.
That's true.
Has an album in the works called Donda that he will be releasing later this year. But he's being his typical Kanye West self about it. He has secluded himself in Atlanta's Mercedes-Benz Stadium to finish working on the album. This past Thursday night, the 22nd, that was also the same day I went to see Stephen Colbert. According to the New Music Express, West took over Atlanta's Mercedes-Benz Stadium to preview his 10th album, playing the project, which includes a new collaboration with Jay-Z. To a packed house, one fan in attendance is now trying to make some money from the event. I'll say what that is in a moment, but this article, and I guess this is maybe for the best, doesn't specify anything about COVID, doesn't specify anything about vaccines, needing vaccine, proof of vaccination status to get in, but it just kind of exemplifies what we were talking about in the last segment, that if there's one person who's sick who potentially isn't vaccinated, that's going to cause a whole to-do, and people likely walked away from this event ill.
I had to mute myself because there's currently an ice cream truck that's driving by my apartment. And I didn't know if like an ice cream truck music would be appropriate for what we're talking about.
That's the one.
I don't even know if you can hear it.
Yeah, that's I can hear it just a little bit.
Okay, well.
Oh,
yep. Yeah, it's different.
Yeah,
this is great. This is good for radio. It's getting louder.
It really picks up.
So that's good. It's good that it's getting louder.
It also shouldn't surprise you because I mentioned Jay-Z when reading from this article that I have a Jay-Z sound drop in the old library.
Somebody got a problem with hoes.
True.
You know. Do you remember
actually the new hit? This is from Kanye. You're getting a little sample.
Do you remember the little jingle that played in Grand Theft Auto 3 whenever you'd pick up a ice cream truck?
Yep.
And it was just that over.
I want to play that game again.
Over again.
What is going on outside?
Probably stopped. Probably some kid wants his chili Fritos. It's probably Big Worm driving around looking for his drug money.
So here's my logic. I was like, it's like what, 60 degrees out? It's pretty nice. It's fresh air. I needed to open up my window. Right before we started recording, I was like, oh fuck, I forgot to close my window. And here we are. All right, the worst has passed. Okay. Sorry. Where were we? Kanye
Well, did you know
Built a stadium?
Yeah, the Kanye Memorial, the Donda West Memorial Stadium, where only Kanye is allowed to live and work and perform there. No one's allowed in. It's just it's his kingdom. It's his castle. Grand Theft Auto 3.
In the Navy.
There was a character that was cut out of the game, and the urban legend was he was removed because of September 11th, because the game came out like a month after 9/11. Mm-hmm. And the urban legend is that this character was cut because of 9/11. Not the case. The rampages that you can do, you collect a little rampage icon, then you get like an objective like kill 50 people with a flamethrower in 2 minutes. There was originally a character named Darkel, who was a homeless man who was also a terrorist who gave out missions that Rockstar Games claims worked better just as rampages and didn't need the narrative of a mission giver to do this. But his character model and dialogue still exists as files that people have data mined over the years. But one of the missions was picking up that ice cream truck, the cherry popping ice cream company truck with his little jingle.
It's coming back.
And you had to arm it with a bomb, drive it into a crowd of people because you turn on the jingle and people start flocking to the ice cream truck, arm the bomb, and then run away. Because that thing would blow up and kill people. Probably in this day and age, it would not fly over too well. Even surprisingly, in 2001, they decided to take the risk and release it. But it is they left something in there where if you drive around the ice cream truck and you turn on the music, people do walk up to the truck like nothing happens. They'll just walk up to it and then immediately turn around and walk away. But it is a thing that happens in the game, and it is a leftover of the crazy homeless terrorist man.
My mother's my sister.
I thought that they took out a mission where you hijacked a plane. That was the rumor.
That's another rumor. They definitely edited the Dodo, which is the plane in Grand Theft Auto 3. They clipped the wings on it, so you couldn't. Now it was possible to fly it. There was a trick that you could do to actually get it to fly, because I had mastered it at one point, but otherwise they removed the ability to fly it. Now Rockstar Games will claim that, we never intended anyone to be able to fly it. We just didn't perfect our flying vehicle technology at the time. Like, no, dude, you definitely took that out, because what video game that released less than a month after 9/11 would allow you to fly a plane in a metropolitan area?
Yeah.
People would absolutely try to fly it into buildings in Liberty City.
Yep.
There was a game on the Sega Dreamcast. It was called Propeller Arena. It was finished. It was 100% finished. It was never released because its release date was like September 17th. You can download it and download a crack of it and emulate it and play it. And people were just like, it's a cool little arcade plane flying game, but not the kind of game that you want to release so soon after such a serious catastrophic event.
Yeah.
But anyway, sounds like the ice cream truck is gone.
It is. Good stall. Very impressive.
Yeah. I've only been doing this for 15 years. I know how to do it. So, again, this NME article doesn't mention if there's anything about the vaccines, anything about COVID, but I would not be surprised in the least if at least one person, could even be Kanye himself, had COVID and spread it. But it also doesn't mention if, you needed a proof of vaccination to get in to enjoy the listening party, the Donda listening party. So anyway, for the segment of How Fucking Dumb Are You, I bring this up because, as I mentioned, the article says, quote, one fan in attendance is now trying to make some money from the event. Article continues. An eBay listing from the user I am a Canon 16 cans, who has a 100% positive feedback on eBay, is doing the rounds online as it claims to be selling air from Yeezy's listening party. The starting price for the Ziploc bag full of oxygen from the event is, in USD, $3,330.
What the fuck?
The listing, titled, quote, Bag of Air from Donda Drop, Last One Official Kanye West Mercedes-Benz Stadium, includes an image from A small plastic bag being held up at the event. The bag features a label that reads "Air from Donda Drop." There's 5 days left to bid on the bag of air, which as of writing of this article, which was from yesterday, today actually, 25th of July, currently sits at $2,125.01 with 6 bids made in total. That means 6 people are stupid enough to pony up the money to buy this.
This is the bathwater extravaganza all over again.
Oh, geez, but at least bathwater, like, that's something tangible, right? Like, it's an actual, like... it's a liquid, right? Like, is it matter? I failed, middle school science. Is water technically considered matter?
We'll go with yes,
because it technically, like, it can have mass to it.
I mean, everything is pretty much matter, isn't it?
It's not air. Let's put it that way.
Yeah,
it's not just full blown, like, just nothingness. Like,
we'll just call it one of the fifth elements.
You can literally put it in a container and make sure it doesn't evaporate or anything. And be fine. Air is literally like, what?
Yeah, it needs something. Because I mean, I think where you're going from, where you're coming from is, it's so hard to talk with noise canceling headphones. Is you can't see it. It's like invisible,
right?
Like kind of like the same thing as saying like you can buy Slash's air guitar. Like,
yeah,
how do you know?
Right. Well, there are people out there that are dumb enough to spend money on this, and it would just be the bee's knees. What would just be the icing on the cake, the cherry on top, if it was air that had COVID molecules. No. It would be literally that scene from The Simpsons where, like, because everyone was posting the scene from The Simpsons when COVID first started, because this happened in, like, an old episode where, like, at a plant in China, someone coughed into it and they, their germs went into the box, and then when the box made it to Springfield and they opened it up, the germs escaped and everybody got sick. It's literally that.
Yeah.
This is how you weaponize COVID. You put it into you seal it into a plastic bag, and then you sell it on eBay and claim it came from Kanye West.
Interesting.
See, that's the type of Alex Jones content we need to start doing.
Yeah.
That's a conspiracy theory right there in and of itself.
I will eat your ass.
He will.
Yeah. So anyway, there you go. If you have the money, consider purchasing a bag of air from a Kanye West listening party for his new album Donda, which is out sometime in September. Purportedly.
What an extraordinary thing to do. Like you go to the concert with a Ziploc bag being like, I got this. I'm gonna capture that air so good in this bag and I'm gonna sell it.
This is just as messed up as the people who were price gouging Szechuan sauce from McDonald's.
Oh yeah.
I distinctly remember a video of someone, like some kid, standing in a McDonald's with like 2 or 3 things of Szechuan sauce and like a big order of McNuggets, and he was charging people like $5 a nugget to try out the Szechuan sauce. It was the saddest video I'd ever seen, because it was someone who was actually like very carefully dipping it in the sauce and taking a bite, and you can see them like tasting the sauce and like analyzing it as if they were at a wine tasting. I'm like, dude, you just spent $5 on a single McNugget to dip in Szechuan sauce. You're getting scammed.
Mm-hmm.
People will do this shit.
I would never feel comfortable.
People do this shit.
It's
the age that we live in now.
Yeah.
Now, if I may make such an obscure reference of the many CSIs that exist, there was the New York series starring Gary Sinise, and his character's wife had passed away on 9/11, and he kept around with him a beach ball that was like slowly deflating over time, but he kept it because his wife had blown it up And he's like, I don't want to get rid of this because it's like the last breath of her air is in this, and I don't want to lose it. Okay, that kind of makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
That, I mean, the dude's obviously not going to try to like profit off of it, but like that kind of, there's some degree of sentimental value to that, is far-fetched as it sounds.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Literally standing at an album listening party and collecting atmosphere, quote unquote, and putting it into his Ziploc bag, like that is just. I should have done that in 2008 when I went to the now granted I had to work because it was a radio station event, but the Guns N' Roses Chinese Democracy listening party that we had in downtown Boston.
You missed out.
I should have done that.
Think of all the cars you could have bought.
Hey man, I collected this Ziploc bag full of air while they were debuting Shackler's Revenge for the first time.
I'm glad I'm not the only one that thinks of like weird stuff. Like if Tom Cruise ever needed like quick money, he could just sell a piece of gum that he chewed.
That would make thousands upon thousands of dollars, dude, at minimum. Holy shit. There are collectors out there that will go for that.
Yeah.
I mean, that is, and that's considered normal versus, the Twitch streamer's bathwater or, used panties in a Japanese vending machine.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just perplexed that, like, people showed up to this Guns N' Roses listening party for Chinese Democracy. There were a lot of fucking people there, and they were into it.
That's cool.
I was just excited. I'm like, wow, Chinese Democracy exists. It was a weird time where Chinese Democracy actually came out. Duke Nukem Forever actually came out. Like, it was a weird couple of years back then. But anyway, well, since we're on the topic of dumb people, here we go really quickly. In Germany, now they climate change is a real thing, and shame on you if you don't believe that it's a real thing. We spent the beginning of this episode just talking about how wet it's been around New England, been unseasonable, the amount of rain that we've been getting. Well, out in Germany, out in the Netherlands, out in that part of the world, it has been raining so much that the floods out there have been catastrophic. They've been getting like the worst flooding they have ever seen. And I do know some people through work who live out in the Netherlands who are having to endure this, and I do keep them in my thoughts because that, you don't want to wish that upon anybody. That shit sucks.
Yeah.
For the like little bit of flooding we get in this part of the world where you and I live, Nate, I would not wish anything like that upon anybody. When you just like wake up one day and your house is literally just submerged in water. But
yeah,
from the BBC, a German presenter has apologized after being caught smearing mud on her clothes moments before appearing on television from a town ravaged by last week's historic floods.
Huh.
Yeah. So, I mentioned also at the beginning of this episode, we talked about, I believe it was Katrina, or at least a very substantial hurricane that occurred where I think it might have been the Weather Channel, which is known for sensational. It's not so much known for weather so much now as it is just how they sensationalize weather. But it was someone, or it could have been CNN, I can't remember. But they were in a boat and they were claiming like, oh, we're in 20 feet of water here. It's the end times, Noah's Ark, yada yada, two of every animal. And then in the background, you see Sanford and Son walking by as if it's nothing, the water going up to their ankles. So I'm out to dinner with my friend Nicole the other night. So as I mentioned in the last segment, my friend and I, Nicole, meeting up for the first time ever, despite knowing each other via MySpace for 16 years. And while we were out to dinner, we were at a Mexican restaurant and I swallowed something spicy and I started having a coughing fit. And I do this with every coughing fit that I have. Now, I will preface this by saying every coughing fit now, people give you dirty looks because COVID. But I'm sitting there in this restaurant. I start having a coughing fit because of what it was I just swallowed, like pepper or whatever. And I do this every time I have a coughing fit in public. I grab my chest, put my arm up, and I start going, I'm coming, Elizabeth. It's the big one. I can feel it. But it sounds even more comical because I'm like struggling to breathe and trying also to speak while coughing. I'm like, it's the big one. And that's me quoting Red Fox, because that is what he would do on Sanford and Son. There's a urban legend that he quoted that when he was actually having a heart attack on set of the show he was filming at the time he passed away. Now that's been debunked.
Aw.
But I love to quote that whenever I start like having a coughing fit. And it's great because people always look at me and they think I'm serious, and they're like, "Who's Elizabeth? Is he okay?" And Nicole,
there's a story here.
Nicole thought that. The people that turned and looked at me in the restaurant thought that. Also probably thinking I had COVID and I'm spreading it to everybody. And there's only been one time that I can remember where someone was just like, they just laughed and they're like, "Man, I love Sanford and Son." And I'm like, "Hey, at least this guy gets it. At least this guy can laugh at my misery." So, but anyway. So according to the BBC, Susanna Olhen, 39, said she acted after feeling, quote, ashamed of reporting from the town in her clean clothes. The broadcaster RTL said that she has been suspended for breaching its standards after the video went viral. In a statement, Miss Olhen said she had made a serious mistake. She had been reporting from, oh God, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, in North Rhine-Westphalia, where record rainfall destroyed homes and left dozens dead last week. Miss Olin said she had been helping aid efforts in the days before filming for RTL's Good Morning Germany program on Monday. But before going on air, she felt, quote, ashamed to stand in front of the camera in clean clothes. Without thinking, she said, quote, I smeared mud on my clothes. At that point, a video of her bending down to spread dirt on her hands and clothes was apparently filmed by an onlooker and later posted to social media. Apologizing for her actions, Miss Olin said this should have never happened.
I was just trying to hide from the predator.
Dude, like, what? So, A, you're a television presenter. Your whole job is to be on camera. So there's that. And second of all, we talked about this last week when we were talking about the Karen that went ballistic at Victoria's Secret. In this day and age, everybody has on their person at all times devices capable of recording decent quality video. Whatever you're doing, just assume you're always on camera. Assume you're always being filmed. Assume that whatever you're doing has the potential to show up online and be shown to the masses. If I'm out in public scratching my ass and picking my nose, I'm going to assume that that's going to show up somewhere online. Because just everyone has that capability now. So if you think that you're going to get away with trying to make yourself look like you are directly affected by this natural disaster, when it's very clear that you're not, because you are a television presenter, you're being sent on location to film. Obviously, you're going to show up you're going to show up in nice clothes, in a well-maintained vehicle. The only way you could potentially get away with this is if you're like reporting on location in like a war-ravaged location, in the middle of a war. Otherwise, like, yes, you're going to be clean and you're going to look clean. Just go with it. It's better to get criticized for your appearance in that regard than to pretend that you are affected by something that is actually affecting people.
100% agree.
So I say good. Good.
That's fucking dumb.
There you go. There you go. That is the exact reason why we do this segment.
Yeah. At least she could have like pretended to trip and like fallen on the ground. You know, these are just some good ideas.
You could win an award, dude. You could win like I don't know what you get out in Europe, like what the equivalent of like a Peabody Award is, but like you could literally get like some award for tripping and falling during a newscast. Those are the things that are great. Those are the things that people actually like get recognition for in respect, is when they're broadcasting and something happens, like did you ever see the old video of the guy he's just doing a report and a fly goes into his mouth?
Yeah, I saw that.
It was like a black guy and he's like, we're reporting live today from this area, and the fly goes in, man, what is fly? I can't do this anymore. What the fuck? Like that's the stuff that you want to be known for. If this lady, if Miss Olhen here, Susanna Olhen, had been reporting, and tripped backwards and fell in the mud, okay, cool, let's all have a laugh. That probably would have lifted spirits.
Yep.
for everyone who's living in that region. God, they probably
pissed everybody off.
Like, someone would have been looking outside like, oh, well, I lost my house because of the flood, but this bitch just fell over in the mud. Now she's drenched. Oh, man. I needed that. I needed that laugh. That's what you need. Not someone like, oh, better try to mix in with the locals here. Look, guys, I'm covered in mud. I'm just like you. What? No, you're not. So she has been suspended. I agree that is definitely an ethics violation right there. So so good on RTL for taking appropriate action there. There's nothing worse than being disingenuine.
Yep.
I mean, look what happened to Brian Williams from NBC. Remember, he lied about being on a helicopter that got shot down and that whole thing. Something that really fascinates me. Did you ever watch the movie? Did you ever take like journalism class back in high school?
I did not.
Okay.
I wish I did, though.
They made us watch this movie called Shattered Glass. It's about a real guy named Stephen Glass who just like he wrote all these articles for a magazine called The New Republic, and they found out that like almost everything that he wrote was fabricated. Nothing about it was real. It came during a time when it was not as easy as it is today to fact check things and verify, but still, like, there's a whole thing in journalism where these case studies about journalists who have actually gone out and just fabricated things because they despite like having degrees in this stuff and working in the field, felt that the only way they could make a name for themselves was to just make up stories rather than actually report on real news. There's always real news out there. It doesn't happen every day, but there's always news out there. There's always something going on. Yeah, you're going to have a slow news day because then when shit picks up, it's going to pick up and you're going to have something to talk about.
Yeah. There's a lot of people who made up shit about chocolate, like being good for you, and they just like lied about it. And then like so many networks covered it. It's like weird. Like, I wonder how much information out there is just somebody's opinion.
I was reading that since Donald Trump was removed from Twitter and social media, that misinformation has gone down exponentially.
Gee, I wonder why.
Shouldn't be a surprise, but look what that effect, look what that effect has on people when the crazy old man at the dinner table on Thanksgiving just so happens to be the president of the United States, and Twitter is his main platform of communication and uses it to just spread lies. Like, yeah, people are going to pick up on that, and it's going to become a running and recurring thing. So when you finally turn off his mouthpiece, all of a sudden, the misinformation goes down.
Yep.
It's still a problem, but at least it went down. Thank God it went down.
They waited way too long, in my opinion, but we already talked about that.
They did. They really did, but I don't know, better late than never.
It's better than nothing. Yeah,
better late than never, because
sure.
this could still be going on. And at this point, it's just comical to see him trying to pick it up under other platforms and other, means of distribution.
He's still trying to sue.
And it's not going to work. It's a private company.
Yeah,
they're all private companies.
His rights were violated. Yeah. It's like,
no, because you literally
Congress will make no law. It says Congress shall make no law. It doesn't say Facebook will make no law. It doesn't say Twitter will make no law. It says Congress shall make no law.
God, that is just fucking sad. Sorry, that we get to that point. Because literally, when you sign up for those platforms, you agree to the terms of service, which say they can and will do exactly what they did to Donald Trump. They just hesitated on it because they're like, hey, we never had to do this for the president of the United States before. We're a little hesitant to act on it.
Yep.
It sucks that it took a insurrection attempt for this to finally happen, but like they were well within their rights to do it, and they finally did it.
Yep.
So anyway, that's a
victory.
That's a tangent for a whole other episode. So let's regroup and wrap up this episode of Hardly Focused. What do you say, Nate?
That sounds great.
Cool. Stick around.
This is Hardly Focused.
Oh, Mike, do you have a fun story the first time you ever bought condoms?
No, because I literally went in and bought condoms.
Oh, there you go. There you go. That's a brave man right there.
I was like, I'm going to have some sex. I'm buying condoms. Thank you very much.
On February 12th, 1981, the Canadian band Rush released their seminal album, Moving Pictures. Speaking of moving pictures, Hardly Focused is available to enjoy on YouTube. Watch us talk at each other and subscribe to our channel at hardlyfocused.com/YouTube.
7 females at a Rush concert. Must be some kind of a world's record.
This is the end.
Hardly Focused.
The end.
Woo! What an episode today, man. Damn. Whole lot going on, a whole lot we didn't get to, but we talked about it a little bit in this episode of Hardly Focused, that YouTube sucks. And I'm having trouble, honestly, understanding like the algorithm, right? Like I try to do okay with SEO, with keywords, but I don't get why, for example, the video that we did about John Penis Man a few months ago, that Danish cartoon about the guy with the giant dick, for some reason that video has 26,000 views on YouTube, on our YouTube channel at hardlyfocused.com/YouTube. Which is, I mean, okay, cool. We got exposure. I'm still getting comments. The comments on that video are fucking great too, because it's all people who are like, "You guys suck. You guys are ignorant. You guys don't get it." I will apologize if I like offended anyone by accidentally calling them Dutch instead of Danish, because I did that. Someone called me out for that, or called one of us out for that in one of the more recent comments. But like, okay, fine. Like I goofed up on that front, but I live otherwise for the rest of the comments that we're getting on that, and then the smattering of people who agree, like, yeah, this cartoon's screwed up. But anyway, yeah, I don't get how that video has like 26,000 views, and then now I will admit I do contribute a small advertising budget to our YouTube channel, which does help with views. But like, I mean, we're doing fine. I will not like, we've done better than we ever have in terms of YouTube, and that's clearly where our online presence is. But like, otherwise, the YouTube algorithm is, quote unquote, algorithm is trash. And I know, Nate, it's been affecting you as a, someone who's actually making a living off of YouTube.
Yeah. There's a lot of feelings, so I'll try to keep this contained.
Yeah, you have 8 minutes. Go.
But basically, there was once a time when you could post things on YouTube and it wouldn't matter what it was, and people would find it interesting. Maybe you're cooking drunk and you upload it just to show to your friends, and then all of a sudden thousands of people are watching you. Or maybe you're blogging and in a comedic way, but you're not doing it for anything particular, but it just happens to. What I'm getting at is, once upon a time you could post whatever you wanted on YouTube. That's not really so these days, because they have specific things that they want on their network, so to speak, because that's what they are now. They're a network. And sure, it's their company. They're allowed to do this. I'm not saying they're not allowed to do what they're doing, but I just wish that they had a place where creators could create freely, and then they had their network bullshit stuff.
Right.
One of the reasons why that video took off is because it's a reaction video, and YouTube loves reaction videos. That's why so many creators have started making reaction videos, because those are the things that work. And now it's forcing people to instead of creating whatever they're passionate about, they have to create things that cater to whatever the algorithm wants. So you have all these people that are doing things like changing their thumbnails and talking about things that they don't want to talk about. They're forced into this position to do things that they don't want to do because that's what the algorithm wants. And yes, I understand it's a job. You got to do stuff that you don't want to do. But it's a creative job. And a lot of these people are losing subscribers and losing fan bases and losing momentum because they are forced down a road that they don't really want to go. And that's kind of what happened with me a little bit. Is YouTube does not like short videos. It does not like 30-second comedy. However, people who like comedy tend to like 30-second videos. So the way that it works is that YouTube will not tell our audience when we make a video. And then YouTube will be like, your video is not popular, so why would I promote it? And it's because you didn't tell anybody that it, like people who are subscribed, even if you hit the bell, you can sometimes not get notified because YouTube is just like, yeah, I don't want this one. And just decides that it's not going to do anything about it.
I will say really quickly that I just did an incognito search. Sorry for, this is encouraging too. I have 3 notifications on YouTube right now and new subscriber notifications, and they're all in Russian. So boy, is that just a vote of confidence right there. I did an incognito search for John Dillermand, which is the name of that cartoon, and we're like one of the first results that comes up. But it's all reactionary videos that come up. I think there's like maybe one or two that are actually relevant to the source content, and the rest are reaction videos. Was it South Park that did a whole episode about like people doing reaction videos that were reactions of reaction videos? Do you remember that? Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that's effectively what we do.
Yeah.
In all seriousness,
it's fine, and I think there's nothing wrong with reaction videos. It's just that it sucks that, like, if you look at the trending page, you look at the videos that are doing well,
right?
You tend to follow within the same kind of structure. And it's just like, I don't really like YouTube anymore because instead of it being a place where people are being creative, it's basically like they're trying to, it's basically high school all over again. Like, pay attention to me, blah, blah, blah. It's a popularity contest. And the other thing is what makes sense about the trending page is if you have 7 million subscribers, of fucking course, whatever you're going to post is going to get a lot of views right off the bat.
Right.
Because you have 7 million followers. That doesn't count as trending.
Now, didn't you have some luck recently with TikTok?
I like TikTok. I know TikTok gets really bad reputation, but
yeah, I don't use TikTok at all.
TikTok's algorithm is a bro. It helps people find things that they actually like.
Yeah.
So, for instance, I posted a video on my YouTube channel a month ago. It has like 250 views. I posted a TikTok on TikTok, and within the first day, it got over 1,000 views.
Right. Yeah, my friend Nicole was showing me, because I was telling her about the John Dickman video and the number of views we have on that. And she was telling me about a TikTok that she posted that has something like some absurd amount of views on it, like millions of views.
Yeah, we have one that we just we posted on YouTube, and it got us maybe like 500 views. We posted it on TikTok, and it got us somewhere around like 350,000 views.
I ask this begrudgingly. Does Hardly Focus need to be on TikTok?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, if you want to grow, but it depends on where you want to grow. Because, like, if you want to grow on TikTok, then yeah, do it. But if you don't want to do TikTok, then it doesn't matter if you grow on TikTok. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, it's just I mean, I guess it's just like any other platform out there. There's just so much trash on TikTok. Like, isn't that Addison Rae chick on TikTok? Isn't that her whole thing?
There is a lot of garbage, of course. You're going to get that because there's a lot of people that are just doing songs and stuff like that. But here's the thing about TikTok is it actually pays attention to the stuff that you like. So if you are watching like a lot of comedy videos, it's going to recommend comedy videos to you. It's not going to recommend, like my feed, I don't see any lip reading, like any dancing or any of that bullshit. I just get sketches because that's what I like. Yeah. And unlike YouTube, it's not like, oh, this is what we want to push on to people. It's like, we know that you like this kind of stuff. So here you go. And it will show people that actually give a shit about that particular piece of content, which is why a lot of our videos are doing very well, because they're being shown to people who want to see it, as opposed to YouTube wants people to see it.
Oh boy, I don't like the fact that I'm thinking about TikTok now, because I've been trying to avoid it like the plague ever since it became a thing.
It's all depending on what you want. Like if you want to do it, then yeah.
I know someone who's into TikTok, and they've been into TikTok for like the last year. My whole mindset has been, if this person's into TikTok, then that means TikTok is trash and I should stay far away from it. But you're now the second person to show me why it is the better alternative over YouTube.
It all comes down to the algorithm, man.
The algorithm.
Like TikTok has the algorithm that every website should have. It should be showing you videos that you want to see, as opposed to, you know, a cash grab.
Yeah.
And you see how popular TikTok is doing. So, you know, it's just, it just goes to show you, it's like, it's newer technology. I shat on TikTok when it first came out.
Oh yeah.
All I knew it was people who were lip syncing to videos and doing weird things and stuff like that. But there's actually a lot of creative people on here. And once you start following those people, it will just continue to show you more and more creative people.
Yeah.
Instead of those other, whatever you want to call it. What? And yeah, I think YouTube is really fucking itself. And I think I would be happy for YouTube to go down the tube.
I'm going to post this on YouTube and see what happens, by the way. I want to see if like this actually picks up traction, like people actually watch this and see what our views do.
It would be interesting to see what happens, but I don't know. Here's the other thing. Certain words, you can't say certain words.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I know. If we ever post anything that's about like the COVID vaccine, for example, it will get flagged and will not show up. You keep mentioning the word algorithm, and that's a thing that I've been seeing a lot of as of late, because you know, being a part of this industry and having a lot of friends in this industry, the whole thing with Activision Blizzard has been in the news, because it's just a shitty company with shitty people, and you know, a lot of it just makes me not want to be part of that industry anymore, in all honesty. But at the same time, I'm seeing a lot of people posting on social media about, you know, their thoughts on the whole thing, and you know, how they feel about it. But they keep having to carefully word their posts and include like links to things, because they're like, the Facebook algorithm is going to bury this. Yeah. And the word will not get out.
And it's a lot of news companies, and, you know, a lot of people who just want to give out information, like honest, true, researched information. They can't get their video up because they said a word.
What an era we live in now. We were even posting videos about like there was a couple that came to light. We were making fun of the doctors in Ohio who were trying to claim that you can get magnetized due to the COVID
Oh,
vaccine.
yeah.
And the videos got flagged for shocking content, so we couldn't like do anything with them. Couldn't advertise, couldn't monetize. And then we posted a reaction video of the engineer who posts videos, like debunking things. And he was debunking the vaccines, the whole thing about vaccines magnetizing you. And we actually got a copyright strike on the channel. And I had to fight it to be like, yo, this is a reaction video. If you're going to take this down, then you need to take down the source content too. This guy with his several million views that he's got on his channel.
That's the other part. That's the other factor that's wrong with it is, and of course, I can't really blame them because like every minute there's like 500 hours of content that's uploaded every minute. That's ridiculous. So of course you're going to have robots that sift through the content. But the problem is you don't have real people checking on these things. So yes, of course these systems were put into place because a lot of people abused the system and posted videos that nobody should have ever seen. But it would be nice if a person, they had people that actually watched the videos that were that they claim are, because I don't think a robot knows what fair use is.
No, it doesn't. And I will say that when complaining about our channel and saying like, look, this is a reaction video and you need to take down the source video if you're going to strike us, I got a response back saying like, oh yeah, sorry, we screwed up. And they removed the strike. So yeah, which is good. And the video.
It's good. Yeah, you do that. They do have cases like that. Yes.
But it's just, it's a different landscape than it was a couple of years ago. Now that we live in the disinformation age.
Yeah.
That's
and I
like every little thing. Like I want to see what this video does. Post this and be like, hey YouTube, fuck you, and see what happens. See how many views we get on it. I'm gonna do the Rocco's Modern Life thing that Fro always jokes about. I'm literally just gonna post a still image of mayonnaise and make it a 15-minute long video and see what happens.
You might as well. I mean, it's a good test. I'm sure we'll get blacklisted, and that's fine. But I mean, they're already killing off everybody's channel anyway, unless you're Jimmy Fallon or whatever. Like.
That's what Jimmy Fallon does.
Yeah, it's unless you're already established, YouTube doesn't give a fuck about you.
Right. Well, on that note, Nate, thank you for being here on this episode.
Thanks for having me.
It's good to have you here. It's been a minute.
Yeah.
Just very quickly, a couple of the things that we didn't get to. COVID could be spread through flatulence.
Of course.
So watch your farts. And I'm not just going to go into detail here. Unfortunately, one of these cases actually happened in Massachusetts, but there's a lot of people fucking horses. That's a thing now. A guy from Alston, Massachusetts, 19 years old, was arrested for fucking a horse. And then in Ontario in Canada. The article here is great. Guy gets caught getting ready to bang a horse. And his quote was, "It's not what it looks like."
You see, now this video can't go on YouTube.
This is almost, I'll post this on our Facebook page. How about that? Hardly Focused, or facebook.com/Hardly Focused podcast. Because there's just one line in this article here. It's great. Quote, police found the smell of scented body oil overwhelming. You don't even need context for that one, man. Just don't fuck horses. There you go. That's
Don't
do it, man. Learn from Mr. Hands. Remember Mr. Hands?
Mm-hmm.
Dude literally perfed his colon because he was fucking horses. Getting fucked by horses.
Don't do it, and get vaccinated and recycle.
Yes.
And also, save this planet because we only have like 7 years left.
I read that an asteroid is hurtling towards Earth and is probably going to miss us by like a smidge, as they typically do, but...
Which is like a billion light years.
Right. It's only hurtling at us at something like 180,000 miles an hour. Like,
yeah.
All right. Well, anyway, Nate, thank you for being here. Enjoy whatever it is you have on the docket for the coming week. Hopefully it's fun.
You too.
Thank you. And we will talk at you next time. Thanks for listening. See you. Bye.
Goodbye.